Geiser Show, Year 3, brought to you by the Ashland University Journalism and Digital Media Department. I'm Cade Krakenster alongside Coach Doug Geiser. Coach, thanks for joining me.
I appreciate the invitation.
Well, of course, it's great to have you back here on the show as we take a look at 2025, moving into next week, and also taking a look back at this past week. We're officially rolled into the year. What are your thoughts, first and foremost, about the game against IUP just a couple days ago?
Kudos to the team and to support staff. They fought their tail off and showed a lot of grit and a lot of fight, and were able to find a way to come back in the second half and get a well-deserved win.
You talk about that IUP program. It's the first time you guys have beat them in program history. How much does that mean to the team?
It means we're 1-0. It's nice to finally beat them at their place right there. But as I told the team after Sunday, after the team meeting, we'll watch the tape, make corrections. We turn the page, and we're on to Indianapolis.
Speaking of Indianapolis, what are your expectations for that game going into it this weekend?
We expect to face probably the best team in the GLVC traditionally, a team that traditionally wins that conference, goes to the playoffs, and play with a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of physicality. So it'll be another big challenge for the Eagles.
An exciting thing about the Geiser Show is the variety of guests you bring on. You like to bring on a coach, a couple of different players, and you text me those the day before. You're like, hey, here's who's coming on. So who we got coming on today?
Well, today we've got our defensive ends coach and field goal block team coach, Andy Tabler. We've got Mike Shimek, who had a tremendous game as a defensive end for us, and then also Ty'aris Stevenson. So those will be the three guests we have today.
It'll be a great show. So we'll just jump right into it. So we'll take a break. We'll step aside. We'll join you back here soon. And when we return, we'll be joined by Coach Tabler to discuss everything further about this past week against IUP and move in to UIndy this coming week. So stay tuned. You're watching the Doug Geiser Show right here on the Eagle Network. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 2. I'm joined by Coach Geiser and Coach Tabler. To both of you, thanks for sitting back down with me today.
Absolutely.
Coach Tabler, you had a front row seat to that defensive line's effort against IUP. Your thoughts?
I think the guys got after it pretty hard all night. We kind of had a goal just to try to disrupt the timing of the quarterback, knowing we couldn't get there every time. The guys did a great job of just being relentless, getting after him, and trying to flush him out of the pocket and flush through him. And I think when we see the results of what we did, you see 3 interceptions, you see the 5 sacks in the game.
Yeah, talk about sacks. Mike Shimek had 3.5 sacks that game, almost his own school record. What did you see in his performance that allowed him to just disrupt the offense so much?
He plays with so much passion, and the way he runs to the ball, the way he can set guys up. And I think this year he has taken a little bit of a different take on it, where he's got more of a plan going in each game on how he wants to attack the opponent, how he wants to attack each offensive tackle based on how that guy plays. I think the biggest thing that you saw this year from him, and you saw it show up in the game, was a lot of the leadership, calling guys up on the sideline, rallying the defense.
And Coach Geiser, you kind of talked about how Mike Shimek has grown over his time.
Yep.
Maybe go a little bit more in depth about just like his overall growth over the last couple of years.
Yeah, from seeing him from when I recruited him out of high school till now, I mean, probably the first thing I would say is he's finally healthy this year. Last year he played the whole year hurt. He had had a high ankle sprain, had a surgery on it after the spring, and didn't have any time at all in the summer to train. It's with the legs, which is key, especially for any kind of lineman either side of the ball. But to watch his confidence grow through the years, but really, if you see the way he works, it's not a surprise at all with the results he's getting. There's nobody that puts in more hours, more time, more study, is more passionate about what he does than Mike Shimek, and it's really neat for me to be able to see that production coming for all the hard work he's put in.
Yeah, and Coach Tabler, how does it make it easier too when you have a defense, the defensive backs and the safeties who are getting balls out of the air, swatting those down, even getting some interceptions, to then realize, okay, my defensive line, they have a little bit of structure on the back and they don't have to worry too much about what's going on behind them.
So we try to look at plays from the past, and we look at plays where maybe the DBs made a big play and they helped us.
Yeah.
Or maybe they made the quarterback hold on to the ball so we were able to get pressure or a sack. And then we'll also look back at where maybe they had a breakdown, but then we made a sack or a play that got the quarterback out of his rhythm. And so I think you just tie it all together to show how the defense builds on itself and helps each other out.
For sure. And you talk about going into this game against UIndy. For both of you guys, what is kind of the structure going into it when you're trying to address, what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, what you guys can exploit, what your guys' weaknesses will be?
Well, you look at it two different ways. Number one, you look at what do they do best. And it's an old Bill Belichick thing. You try to take away what they do best and force them to play left-handed. Okay, so this team is traditionally a really, really good rushing football team. One of the best in the country traditionally. They got good offensive line, solid running backs. They got a quarterback that can run as well. And oh, by the way, this year they've thrown in the passing game with it, and their quarterback is playing lights out right now. So you have that, but then you also look at, conversely, what do we do best? And so you do a combination of those two things that put together will be a good plan. And that's what Coach Rose and the staff are working on today.
Yeah, and Coach Tabler, the defensive line.
Yeah, so I think the big thing with us is we're trying to be so multiple this year, trying to find chances where they've played somebody that's maybe used the same techniques or alignments, and I think you see some of that, but you also see why or how their offensive tackles will play different based off of the different defensive ends or defensive alignments.
Yeah, and Coach Tabler, how do you keep this momentum going moving forward? Obviously, you like what you saw in week one. How do you make sure they replicate it next week?
I think for the whole defense, you don't settle. You don't read into maybe some of the stuff that IUP has said about the game and about how well we played, and you just know it's like Coach Geiser said, we're 1-0, and you just got to go out and prove it all over again the next week.
And Coach Geiser, how do you make sure that Coach Tabler's got it down locked every week?
Well, I have a lot of trust in Andy and what they do with the defensive ends and what they do with the defensive front. And you see the time that they put in, the study they put in film-wise. You see the work they're putting in practice, and there's a lot of our practice we're going good on good. So we go the ones on offense versus the ones on defense, and it kind of, they said iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
So you have it from both those different views right there, and you hope the product comes out similar to what it was last week.
Any youngsters that Eagle Nation should be on the lookout for currently with the defensive ends that might be kind of making their way into the lineup here soon?
Well, Elijah Baldridge is in his first year starting at the other end, and he's a young guy, but he plays with a lot of intensity. He's a guy that's we say he embodies a follow me attitude of a leader, and we've got guys like Kendrick Mensah, Darius Hatley, and Brendan Hermansky that have come along and been on the travel squad, and then Russell Twining's in his senior year and had a really big game for us too, and got a strip sack in the game, which was just kind of a timing thing where he got in because somebody was limping and jumped in and made the most of his opportunity.
Yeah, and stay on this defensive side of things real quick, Coach Geiser. Who else did you see on the defensive side of things that really shined this past week?
If you look at the back end, EJ Tia is picked up right where he left off last year, had a very dominant year last year, and is really starting to step up in a leadership role as well. And it's nice to have that back there, especially when you're adding some veterans like an Izzy Vasquez and a DJ Butler to that. I'd also mention Nick Sailors. Nick Sailors, all he seems to do is make plays.
Yep.
And so, those two guys in the back end there, and probably every week you could mention Ben Holzoffel and Jack Talkington as well. But it was definitely a team effort. We had some great individual performances, but you look overall, the product, that whole sum right there was a very, very dominant performance last week.
Yeah, and my last question, Coach Tabler, you look at UIndy being on the road, big matchup for you guys. How do you kind of shift the gears going from IUP in one state, UIndy another, and then you're coming back home the following week?
Yeah, we'll be excited to finally get back home, so that'll be great. I think you handle the chaos. It's we play on a Saturday now, so it's a little different time schedule, but you try to keep things as consistent as you can. You're still driving the day before, you're still in a hotel the night before, so we should be pretty used to that by the time October rolls around.
Perfect. Well, both of you, thanks so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate.
We'll step aside, join you back here soon. As a reminder not to go anywhere. Plenty more segments coming your way here on the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 2.
Need a construction team that can do it all? Bo Lacey Construction delivers experience you can trust, done right on time, with free estimates and special financing offered for roofing, siding, gutters, windows, bathrooms, decks, to the highest standards of excellence, quality, and knowledge in the industry. Bring your next project to life with Bo Lacey Construction.
Welcome back to the Eagle Network, the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 2. I'm Kid Krakish alongside Coach Geiser and now Ty'aris Stevenson. Ty, thanks so much for joining me.
Of course.
You know, let's talk about that game you had, the game-winning drive, 10 plays, 70 yards, and you finished it off with a 1-yard touchdown. You know, what was going through your head that entire drive?
Just trusting my preparation all summer, trusting my coaches, trusting my O-line, and honestly just, giving 110% every time I got a chance to touch the ball.
You know, it's something you've done real well these past 2 years is getting in those opportunities and taking advantage of them. You know, how important is it also to start a year off that hot as well?
It's very important. It's very imperative. I feel like that just based off last year, I definitely didn't do as well as I would have hoped. And just going into this year, I feel like I got a lot more that I could prove and a lot more that I could help the team. And yeah, just doing that.
Yeah, Coach Geiser, when you take a look at kind of the growth Ty's had over his career, and even just taking a look at the offense in Week 1 and the growth that they had over the course of the game, what's going through your head as you're seeing that growth over time?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a tale of two halves if you look at it. I mean, the first half was a lot of frustration, and it was almost like everybody, different person each play took turns not executing. They're doing what they're supposed to do, and so it's kind of getting everybody back on beam with that. And I think there's a lot of talent in that whole offensive room, in that unit. So be able to refocus back and realize, hey, the game's not over after a half. There's still some things that they're giving us there. There's some things we can do execution-wise. We just got to make sure we're refocused, reconcentrate at that point, and trust your ability. Just go out and play.
Yeah, and Ty, when you take a look at kind of the tale of two halves that we talked about, slow first half, really strong second half. What was the mentality in the locker room? What was the locker room like?
Just coming together as a team, that camaraderie, we're brothers. So trusting each other, like I said earlier, just trusting our coaches and going out and, doing what we know we're capable of doing, which is playing as a team and winning.
Yeah, and the funny thing too is that technically this is your first game-winning touchdown you've had in your career, which is a funny stat because you've had so many touchdowns even throughout last year, but this is technically the one that's technically the first career game-winning touchdown. What does that mean to you personally to know that you're having that big of an impact?
Honestly, if you want me to be completely honest, it's just helping the team win. It's not really more of a personal attribute. I don't really look at it in that way. I just look at it as like I helped the team when I did what I could, and just going forward, I got to get better. We got to get better as a team, and it's more team, not just me, not just I.
Yeah, and how do you build that consistency going through the rest of the season, especially heading into Week 2? You guys have a win under your belt. How do you keep the team consistent and stable?
Just keep practicing hard. Like I said, keep trusting our coaches. Watching film and not taking plays off in practice, not taking reps off, and just trusting our preparation, doing the best we can every day to be UIndy.
Yeah, and Coach Geiser, what are you seeing out of that running back room here so far this year?
I see a lot of talent. I see a lot of competition. You see guys with a lot of ability and a lot of personal pride. You look at guys from Ty, and you got Orlando Kamara, you've got Ty Stevenson. Not Ty Stevenson, he's already here. You've got Will Trail Hartson, you got Chris Maloney, and I can mention 5 or 6 other guys. And to see the way they do prepare, not only during the season and during practice, but during the off season. And I think there are some days we've actually had to throw Ty out of the weight room. I think we've done that occasionally there. But talk about guys that love the process and love that portion of it. And coming off of last year, which was a very successful year team-wise, but setting goals and realizing, hey, there are areas I need to get better. I can't rest on my laurels. I've got to get better or I'm going to get worse. And just seeing the guys embrace that whole philosophy there and then compete like crazy in practice and realize, hey, when I get my opportunities in the game, I got to flash, I got to pop. It's nice. It's a great situation to be in as a coach.
Yeah, and Ty, you're someone who's always in the weight room. What's keeping you in there? What's the motivation to keep getting after it every day?
Honestly, just wanting to get better. Wanting to play. Like, I don't want to stop playing football at Ashland. Like, I want to play at the next level, and just wanting to make it, and be the best running back that I can be to make it. I constantly I have to work every day. I can't take days off, and I gotta continue to try to perfect my craft, and that starts in the weight room, not just on the field.
And the offense has obviously a different identity that it has in years past. Coach, one word to describe it.
Probably blue collar. I know that's 2 words.
That's a good
2
one,
words,
though.
but blue collar. There's a lot of guys there that embrace the physicality portion of it, and it starts with the guys up front. When you have all 5 of your starters back, and actually probably not your top 9 back from last year, that's a great place to start. Knowing you can hopefully be able to physically match up with the other team every week. Then you got a lot of experience at quarterback position, even though Cam hasn't started a lot of games. He's been through the program, understands it, and he brings a little certain leadership charisma to that as well. And that whole returners philosophy of wanting to get back and beyond, and realize that it's not gifted to us. We're not guaranteed that. We got to fight, scratch, and claw every week to be 1-0. And then at the end of the year, we'll take stock of that and hopefully get an opportunity to have some other challenges beyond there.
Yeah, last question here for you, Ty. You look at being on the road for the first 2 games of the year, different states. Yeah, you're taking a week at a time. Coach Geiser will say that, got to go 1 every week. But how nice is it going to be to be back home for week 3?
Actually, really nice. As they say, stadium pulse will be on our side, and that's a big factor. So it'll be nice.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Ty, thanks for joining me.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
We'll step aside. We'll join you back here soon. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 2, right here on the Eagle Network. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 2. I'm Cade Krakenstrom alongside Coach Geiser. Time for our Q&A segment. The best part, last week we had a couple viral moments talking about your hair. Any updates on the hair since?
Well, you know what? Sheila said thank you.
Oh, that's great.
She said thank you for the shout out, and she hooked me up last week. As you can see, I got my hair cut, so it's always good. Always good in the hair world.
Great to hear. Well, if anyone in here has any questions at all, make sure to come up to the microphone and ask them away. But first question we'll go with here is one that was submitted in advance.
Okay.
Coach, how tough is it to put together a non-conference schedule when games like IUP and Indianapolis are always such big early season tests?
Well, for us, we like to play up, believe it or not. It gives a true indication of exactly what we have. There's no delusions. You're not going to think that you're better than you are at this point, because when you play an IUP, you play a Indianapolis, you play a Ferris, which you played the last couple of years, you're exposed. You're exposed at that point, all your things you need to work on. So I would rather have that going into conference than nothing else. So it's something we embrace. And it's kind of a reason guys come to Ashland as well, is they want to play in venues like that.
Well, if any questions here in attendance, any Q&A questions here? We got a question?
We got one coming, okay.
All right, make your way up. Oh, right over there, to your right.
Now be careful, Russ. Take it easy. I recruited you.
All right, I am hearing from inside sources on the team that you are a big pro wrestling fan.
That's
which
true.
leads me to ask, would Gideon Hayes fall on your Mount Rushmore of pro wrestlers?
He would definitely be on the Mount Rushmore of pro wrestlers, that's for sure. He's being a current champ. I think he's like a champion of multiple organizations. So I think he's probably up there with the Lex Lugers and the Barry Windhams. I think I would definitely put him on the Mount Rushmore of pro wrestlers. That's for sure.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yes.
Coach, we'll stay on that topic for just a moment here. Pro wrestling, outside of the one that was just mentioned, any other favorite wrestlers you got out there? All-time, current.
Yeah,
like that?
you know what? I was always a big fan of the Four Horsemen.
Okay.
And Barry Windham was one the incarnation with Barry Windham was good. I was a big fan of Arn Anderson as well. You got to like Ric Flair. Tully Blanchard's another underrated one as well. So if I had to pick one group, one wrestler, I'd say the Four Horsemen are probably the group I would go with. I'd roll with them.
Well, stay on the topic of some more stuff like that before we dive back into football. What else would you consider something you enjoy? What are your hobbies, Coach? How can they get to know you better?
One thing, I enjoy working out. Just to keep myself in shape. I always joke that I can't let the players get too far ahead of me.
Okay.
So I always got to go in and sweat a little bit with that. Also enjoy reading. I enjoy reading, especially biographies, people who are successful. Just trying to get their secrets and see if there's anything that they do that's led them to their success that I can maybe incorporate in my life as well.
I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question because I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it. But, when you talk about motivation and you talk about what makes someone, I guess you could say, tick or do the right thing, what is it for you that has you wake up every morning?
Probably our players. Our players, they inspire me. It's something, one of the reasons I'm involved with this great game is if you would have told me growing up on the dairy farm, the crop farm that I grew up on, that I'd have a chance to be around motivated young men coaching a game for a living, I'd have said, sign me up. Sign me up. So when you see players like we had here today, a Ty Stevenson, a Mike Shimek, we had an Ethan Enders last week as well, Ben Holzoffel, those guys inspire me because of the standards they hold themselves to and that they strive to attain. And they challenge me. They challenge me to make sure I'm preparing and performing at a high level to get them prepared. I know, there's one of the best linemen I coached many years back, Zach Douglas from Little Smithville High School, and I remember talking to Zach at one point, and he was one of those guys. He did not suffer fools. If he did not respect you, he was not going to give you his best. And it challenged me to make sure every single day I'm showing up to challenge him and give him the nuggets he needs to succeed on game day.
Perfect. Anyone else in attendance have any questions? Let's get to Coach some hard hitters. Let's get him some ones that are going to rattle him a little bit. Anyone got something? Looks like we got one question.
He jumped up right away, so I'm a little worried now.
I think it'll be pretty tame.
Hey Coach, so just kind of thinking about going on the road in like a college atmosphere, do you ever take into account in game prep like the different atmosphere you're going to on the road and like the fans there? Does that ever come into your mind during game prep?
It does to an extent. I know, for example, when you go to a Grand Valley and their student section it's a real snake pit. You're warming up on the closed end, and there's however many thousands strong, and they're getting razzed the whole way. So it tests your mental toughness to be able to stay locked in. It does, and obviously there's some natural things along there too. You get in venues like that are loud, and so you got to think about how you're going to communicate at that point, especially if you're in signals offensively. That could be an issue. I've been up there at times where that's an issue, and it's affected us. We've had procedure penalties because we couldn't hear. We weren't communicating correctly with that. So those are things that you take into account. I mean, we're going into a stadium this week, with Indianapolis, been extremely successful in that venue. So understanding, the confidence that they play with at their venue. So good question.
I did have a question come online last week that I forgot to ask you. It was a very odd question, so I have no idea if you're going to understand this at all.
Okay.
But in NCAA 26, the video game, there's something called Stadium Pulse, and it goes up higher and higher as you go to different stadiums. Okay. How would you rank the schools in the GMAC, based on Stadium Pulse? Is there any up there that would be like, toward the upper echelon?
That's a very loaded question. Because if I pull out one as opposed to another, I'm going to tick off all the other schools. So I would say every place we go to is a very, very challenging venue.
You go.
I'll say it that way.
I like that. So the Stadium Pulse is all the way up in every venue.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, good answer.
Yeah.
Analytics and technology are playing like a bigger role in football every year as well. How much is that filtered down to the Division II level? I know we've talked about signals to quarterbacks, talking about replay this year, a lot of things like that.
It's always been a part of what we do. And I think what you got to do, it's a portion of evaluation, but it's only a portion. It's not the be-all and the end-all. You can't make it the overriding factor. I think that's taken away some of the responsibility you have as a coach in the whole process. But it's another aspect that you can weigh, and we've always done that. As far as examining ourselves self-scout-wise, and you do it obviously when you break down the opposing teams as well. But more than anything, I would say the analytics is really, really helpful when you're looking at your self-scout. That way you can kind of figure out what does the other team know about us that we might not know. So as long as you keep it in perspective and realize there's always going to be a human element of it, and you never want to give up that ownership of that part of it, it is very, very important at the college level on all division levels.
And actually, we had another question from last week again that was towards the end of the show that we missed because it was outside of our Q&A segment. So I promised this person I would ask it this week. But we brought up Tim Rose last week.
Yeah.
And the incredible coach that he is. He's a very old school coach. How do you make sure players are going to respond to him correctly?
Well, here's the thing about Tim that you need to know. He reinvents himself every offseason.
Wow.
He doesn't. Nobody would think worse of him if he just kind of mailed it in and kind of, hey, I'm experienced, I've seen this before, yada yada. He doesn't do that. He researches. He researches to stay on the cutting edge, every single off season. With calling. Now, here's the great thing: is everybody in America knows Tim Rose because they either played for him or they coached with him. Okay, so being able to have those resources, and he never assumes that he knows. He's always trying to find that ultimate answer. And it's a great example for the other coaches on staff, a great example for me, for our players. And the other aspect of that goes along with that is he realized that coaching is building relationships. And you got to be able to continue to build relationships with your players. Find out what motivates them, what gets their juices going, how to reach them. Because ultimately, we don't have a job, we can't be successful without the players. So I think keeping those two things in perspective, always wanting to reinvent yourself scheme-wise, but building those relationships with the players so they'll play for you, that's two key things, and that's why Tim is probably the youngest guy on staff, believe it or not, because of those two things.
Any other questions from those in attendance? Any other questions at all? Well, if not, the last one here for you, Coach. At this point in the year, you're in the season, you're in the heart of everything right now. Do you have time to ever, watch some pro football or other college football?
You know what? I actually yesterday when I was breaking down our game, I actually played the Packers and the Lions game in my office when I was working. Matt LaFleur, great friend. Hey, you might not like him, but Matt LaFleur
is a Lions fan.
Oh, he's a Lions fan. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But Matt is an Eagle. He's an Ashland Eagle, so I'm always going to support him. And you kind of hear it in the background every once in a while. You'll watch it a little bit. But as far as intently studying it, I don't have that time to do it during the season. But I will keep abreast a little bit.
Well, appreciate it, Coach. Well, we got 2 more segments to go tonight.
Sounds
Making good ground. So we'll step aside. We'll join you back here soon. As a reminder, not to go anywhere. You're watching year 3 of the Doug Geiser Show, episode 2, right here on the Eagle Network. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show, year 3, episode 2, brought to you by the Ashland University Journalism and Digital Media Department. I'm Kid Krakus, Coach Geiser, and Coach Tabler back here to kind of recap and finish off the show here today. But before we dive into the stuff that we've already talked about, let's talk about Indy. Let's talk about what we're going to expect from them. First question I've got for you, Coach Tabler, emotional win for you guys, coming back in half number 2. How do you make sure that you don't fall into the same circumstances that you had through the first 2 halves against UIndy?
I don't know. I think you just try to go in with an even keel and you think about what you got to get done. And as you get into the week, you kind of start to slowly build up to the energy level you want to have for the game, and you get ready to go for the game. And I think you just play it one game at a time.
And what stands out to you about the Greyhounds this year?
The quarterback is a really good passer. He's got great communication with his teammates, with his receivers. He's done that for a couple years now. He won a national championship, I believe, at an NAIA school. Came in now, he's been their all-league player of the year and led him to the playoffs last year. So you got to try to do something to, try to affect the game in your pass rush and how you're playing. You got to be able to stop the run first. They've got a really great offensive line. They got 4 returning starters that were all league players last year. So you got to be able to, handle things up front first, and then secondary, you try to disrupt their passing.
Yeah, and Coach Geiser, I think the fortunate thing about it this week compared to last week is you have this year's footage on the team.
Yeah.
You're looking at stuff from last year and things from the past. But the nice thing is that when you're going up against UIndy, you have the game against Findlay from last week to look back on.
Yeah.
How does that change the preparation? Having the opportunity to be able to see what they did this year.
Well, we did a game exchange with them at the end of in the off season. So we got their last 3 games, they got our last 3 games. So you're able to study them off of that. So now being able to see the Findlay film, you're either going to confirm or okay, have they branched out, have they changed a little bit? So that's the biggest thing. You're trying to get a good snapshot on who their play callers are, offensively, defensively, special teams wise. And I've played against I've coached against Indianapolis in the past. So kind of seeing how they've grown through the years and how that kind of morphed a little bit. Because Chris was there a long time as defense coordinator with Bob Bartolomeo. And he's kind of taken what Bob has built there and kind of grown it and going beyond with that. And they're one of the best programs in the country right now.
Yeah, is there any matchups you're looking at on both sides of the ball that you're excited to see kind of what comes out of it?
Well, I would say probably the first one, believe it or not, is going to be on special teams.
Interesting.
They got 2 dynamic returners in the kickoff return game and also on punt return. And we're going to be tested. We always pride ourselves on our special teams. Our coverage units especially are going to be tested this week with 2 of the most dynamic returners in the country.
Yeah, and Coach Tabor, what does your preparation look like in terms of the special teams side of things?
Just trying to take a look at their field goal team and how they block and what kind of personnel they use. You look at the kicker and what's his consistency been like, where he's putting the ball, how far he can kick it from. And they've got an experienced kid, a senior that's a place kicker for them. And then against Findlay, they actually started a freshman who was pretty good. And I think he was 51 of 51 in high school. So he just try to prepare and try to get you guys in the best position as possible.
Yeah, do you guys practice that? Do you guys go out there and go through scenarios, or is it more kind of the film side of things?
We do a good amount of the film scenarios, watching where they kick from, how he kicks, and you see that. But we go good versus good on field goal every day, and you try to work your block against our kick team. So it's never the same. We don't do a scout team, but we try to just get the best look that we can and try to bring pressure every time. And then at the end of practice situations, we'll often get the kicker out there for maybe a game-winning kick scenario. And if we're lucky, it'll be with conditioning relief on the line and makes it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, and Coach Geiser, this question comes from 88.9 WRDL. They're talking more about how you had that game on Thursday, then the game on Saturday. It's not Saturday to Saturday. How do you use that extra time to prepare?
You get another practice. That's the most important thing. Where you usually only get 3 days of practice because we'll go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We don't practice on Fridays, the day before a game. So now you're adding in a Sunday with that. So it allows you more than anything else. Maybe get your scout team set. It's another day where you can work against their base. So then the other 2 days, maybe you're working against, if you're on offense, working against their movement. If you're on defense, you're working against maybe some of their specials you might not have a chance to expose yourself to before. So it's good all the way around. It helps our scout teams, it helps our actual varsity teams as well, and you can never have too much preparation.
And Coach Taylor, is there any guys that you work with specifically you're hoping to see have a pretty big game here against UIndy?
Specifically, I'd say just the group in general. I feel like that's been the strength. The defense is just the group and how they play, and you got to have your seniors to have their best season. So every game you're hoping the seniors play their best game ever. So.
Perfect. And my last question here is for you, Coach Geiser. Momentum's obviously a big thing. Guys have to take it 1-0 every week, but how nice would it be to be able to come away with the victory and then move in and go back home to Jack Miller Stadium with a 2-0 record?
It helps your morale more than anything else. It's confirmation that you're on the right track, you're doing the right things. So. Is there momentum? Only because it's helping your maybe mentality you're coming into practice. But the last time I checked, we're not going into Indianapolis with an extra 3 points or 7 points because we won last week. Every game is kind of a story unto itself, and you got to prepare yourself, and then you got to show up, and you got to execute at that point. So that is truly the 1-0 mentality we have every single week, and just knowing we're not going to ask no quarter, give no quarter, and we're hoping to be able to give a good challenge to Indianapolis, because they're a really good football team.
And my last question for you, Coach Tabler. Indianapolis, guys going to go on the road. You're going to go to 2 different states in 2 weeks. Got the family back home. How tough is it to be on the road all the time like that? How excited are you to be back at home in a couple weeks?
It'll be great just to be able to have the time where you're not traveling, so you can see the family on Friday night and even Saturday morning before heading out, and then seeing them at the game is always a lot of fun. And if we get the win, they get to be out on the field, so they're excited for that.
That's awesome. Well, appreciate you both sitting down with me.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, kid.
We'll step aside, joining back here soon. Our final segment's coming your way here soon on the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Eagle Network.
Budget, save, invest. A plan to help you make smart retirement choices today. Your future self will thank you.
This ad has been provided by Donald M. Graham and Associates, where our dedicated team will help you meet life's complex financial challenges. Call today to schedule your visit at 1-800-322-6116. Securities and advisory services are offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, member FINRA SIPC.
Welcome back to Year 3 of the Doug Geiser Show. I'm Cade Crackister alongside Coach Geiser. It's our final segment. Once again, it feels like the night just flew on by.
It does.
It's always great to be here at Buffalo Wild Wings in Ashland. A reminder to always come out to these live episodes, ask questions, tune in. And you know, the exciting thing is, starting next week, we're going to be giving out 2 free tickets to every game, every home game. So make sure to come out, and we'll be giving them out to you out here at Buffalo Wild Wings in Ashland, Ohio.
Am I eligible for that too?
You're not eligible, Coach.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Not you. Anyone else but you.
Okay.
Just kidding, don't worry. If you want it, you can have it. Looking at week 1, you know, last final thoughts on IUP as you turn the page to UIndy.
Well, you know, we kind of turned the page on Sunday, as you can imagine. And, you know, as we're going into this, we're excited for the opportunity. You know, as we talked about earlier in the show, part of the reason our guys come to Ashland is to play in games like this, play in venues like this, to get tested in games like this. So we're excited. We're extremely excited for the opportunity and get a chance to once again play against a perennial playoff team and go out and see if we're up to the challenge. Yeah, and any final message to Eagle Nation as you guys get ready to head up onto the up to Indy and on the road this weekend? I would just say this: hey, you know, follow us on the 2 radio stations, 2 radio broadcasts, and you know, we can feel your positivity through the airwaves somehow, some way. We'll feel it, and we need that support as we go into this next game. It's going to be a big one for you guys. Go trying to get through non-conference play and then be back at home for conference action. You know, we're talking about going 1 week at a time. You know, I've kind of taken that motto. You go 1 show at a time. Go 1-0 every show. I'm rubbing off on you. You're rubbing off on me. Yeah, exactly. But I will say that next week we've got a great one coming up. Yeah, we do. I think I had a chance to talk with one of my mentors, you know, Lee Owens, before earlier today, and we're going to have him on the show next week. And he's just recently wrote a book called The Spirit of the Team, and tremendous book, a lot of Ashland ties in that book. And then we're also going to get him on here to talk about the rivalry with Hillsdale. Yep. He's been involved with that for almost 20 years and get his insights and thoughts on that game as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, fortunately next week's going to be an extra special episode. It's going to be an hour and a half long. We're going to have a lot of segments. We'll break it up. We'll have the 2 with Lee like we talked about, talking about his book, talking about the history of Ashland football in general, but also against Hillsdale for that traveling trophy. But also it's that first preview before the home game, the first preview before conference action. I mean, that show's going to be a loaded one, so make sure to come out here to Buffalo Wild Wings here in Ashland to join us for that one. Also tune in. If you can't make it out here, you can go to the Eagle Network YouTube channel, subscribe, and you can catch everything live there as well. Any final thoughts for the audience out there, Coach? Hey, we're excited to play college football, and we're going to week 2 here, and we were fortunate enough to get the W last week, and so we'll see if we can stack on that performance, become a little bit more consistent, and correct a lot of mistakes we had from last week.
Before we go, give a special thanks to the Ashland University Journalism and Digital Media Department for all the help on the behind-the-scenes production of the Doug Geiser Show. Buffalo Wild Wings in Ashland here for the hospitality and, of course, hosting us, and all of the Ashland University football sponsors that you'll start to see here as we get ready for the coming home matchups on the Rock Entertainment Sports Network broadcast alongside Flow College. You'll see all of our sponsors that help make everything possible for the football side of things this year as the sponsors. But again, a thank you to all of you for tuning in and everyone who comes out here to Ashland, Ohio at Buffalo Wild Wings to support the Doug Geiser Show Year 3. I'm Kid Krakus.
I'm Doug Geiser.
We're saying so long till next time. Come back here next Monday for an extra special episode. You're watching the Doug Geiser Show Year 3 right here on the Eagle Network.